What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Jake Shavink here. It is August. Football is happening this month. That means college football as well. So you know what that means. It's a way too early 2025 NFL mock draft, which should give us a nice little insight into some of these prospects and where they could potentially land once the 2025 NFL draft rolls around. So we're going to go through one round using the PFF order as it stands. Let's roll. All right, guys, so we go into the mock draft. Carolina Panthers are starting us off at pick 1. Obviously, if they pick here, again, could be the chance that they move on from Bryce Young, but I think he's going to do quite a bit better with Dave Canales in there helping run the show. Out goes Brian Burns, right, via trade to the New York Giants. In comes James Pierce Jr., 52 pressures, 13 sacks last season for the Tennessee Volunteers. I think he could be an instant impact player, especially in that Najiro Evero 3-4. So get an impact player off the edge. You help build that defense up while the offense gets going with all of their new additions. And you could have, something brewing quickly there in Carolina. The Patriots at pick 2. Luther Burden, very tempting here for sure. Obviously, you could see, what you have in Baker and Polk and maybe go, maybe we don't have enough. And Burden could be an easy selection here. He's a phenomenal player. We're going to go offensive line. Not sure Caden Wallace is necessarily going to be the franchise left tackle. We'll see. Will Campbell, though, tremendous player for LSU in terms of pass blocking especially. Right, great footwork, great hand placement, good balance. Really well-rounded in all he does there. Instant impact, help protect Drake May for the long term. And with the lack of offensive line talent and depth across the league, it's hard to pass on an impact potential franchise left tackle early in the draft. The Broncos at 3 was tough. Luther Burden, again, could be in play there. However, we're going to go for a toolsy pick. Very Trayvon Walker-esque. Mikael Williams from Georgia, 6 sacks in each of his first 2 seasons. Brings a lot of tools, good size of the position. Really could elevate his play this year and really jump up to this spot when all is said and done in April. So the Broncos are going to add to their defensive front here at pick 3. Tennessee Titans at 4. Another tough one where if they're picking 4th, probably going to need QB help, right? Will Levis probably not going to be the guy. But we're going to pivot. It's hard to project that. We'll see how things go, right? This is an early mock. I want to make sure Will Johnson gets his flowers as a top 5 and maybe top 2 prospect in this class. Would have easily been cornerback 1, in my opinion, in 2024, ahead of guys like Mitchell and Arnold. And just the potential impact that he can provide you, right, in terms of man coverage, in terms of zone coverage, taking a part of the field away, lining up against your best receiver, right? Like that is very, very important. You see Sauce Gardner's impact. You see Surtain's impact. Will Johnson could have a similar one for the Titans. The Giants at 5, I just feel like, Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, right? We're probably going to see that experiment fail. Even if they make some sort of weird playoff push again like they did 2 seasons ago, I just don't buy it that much. So then it comes down to, do you want, a more precise passer in Beck? Do you want Shedeur Sanders, who has good instincts as well, maneuvering the pocket? Just kind of needs to step up and get better against the blitz, but he's got more off-script work than Beck does. We're going to lean towards Beck here, even though I think a mobile quarterback could be something that Dable would still want going forward. But Beck's a precise passer from the pocket, good maneuverability, good touch, accuracy, all of that. He could elevate his play a little bit and kind of drive this Georgia offense. I think that could really sell teams for him being a top 5 pick, and that's where the Giants are going to go here. I think it's Beck or Sanders. It either has an argument, in my opinion, for QB1 at this point. Not the best quarterback class, but there could be some risers when all is said and done. But the Giants are going to go Carson Beck there. Washington Commanders at 6. This was tough as well, just because I think you could make an argument for corner here, but Jayden Daniels obviously doesn't have the biggest frame. He loves to run around. He takes some hits. Would love to make sure he's protected when he's in the pocket. We're going to go Kelvin Banks Jr., who I think has some refinement work to do in terms of footwork, in terms of recovery ability, right? I think you see some feet crossing a little bit. He needs to be in better position and be more proactive in his sets, but a lot of tools here. And I think, with the Washington line, there's a lot of mediocre there. I think they could get a lot better on the offensive line, and Banks would be a great step to doing so. Arizona Cardinals at 7. Again, Luther Burden and Marvin Harrison Jr. would be an insane duo to think about. But ultimately, I think you have to improve the defense. They are in desperate need of cornerstones, of playmakers on that side of the ball. You're going to go Mason Graham, who I think, you talk about impact defensive linemen, right? The 3-tech, these pocket pushers, these impact players on the interior being so important to defense right now that teams are going, taking Byron Murphy types in the top 16, right? In trying to find that guy, Quinnen Williams, Dexter Lawrence. Everybody's looking for an interior disruptor. The Cardinals find one here in Mason Graham, who maybe could go higher than this when all is said and done, but Arizona desperately needs somebody on the defensive side of the ball. Graham does that for them. Vikings at 8. Boy, they've been looking for corner for a long time, haven't they? We're going to go Travis Hunter for them here. Obviously a two-way player, right? He's done some stuff at wide receiver. I just feel like his best stuff is at corner. I think it's going to be more valuable that he plays corner at a high level, that closing ability, from off coverage, how much ground he can cover when he closes, enough speed, enough instincts, enough playmaking ability, ball skills. It's all there. Minnesota might have finally kind of solved this sort of corner curse, you could say, by taking Travis Hunter there. Raiders at 9. I think it's pretty obvious where we're going to go. Aiden O'Connell, not the answer. Gardner Minshew, no thank you. Just need a good distributor out there. Truthfully, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, 2 tight ends in Bowers and Mayer who should be able to make an impact. Get Shedeur Sanders in there. He doesn't have to be the engine right away necessarily, so that's nice for him. I still think he has a lot of high-level traits that are going to translate immediately. Again, just taking another step forward for Colorado this year will go a long way. But the Raiders need QB, and that offense could be humming with Sanders at the helm. Seattle at 10. I really, really wanted to take Malachi Starks for them just because I think using him like a Kyle Hamilton in McDonald's defense out there would be awesome. But I think they've got probably plans for Devin Witherspoon to stay in the slot and make a lot of plays there. So kind of limits, it kind of lessens that need for a player like Starks who could kind of move around. So went a different direction. I think they could use more help on the edge. Let's go Abdul Carter from Penn State. Lots of tools. Not a ton of production, just 4 sacks last season. But I do think the NFL is going to love physical tools. The testing for Penn State, guys, we know that's off the charts. Seattle makes the move here at 10. The Saints at 11. I think, we've kind of danced around picking Luther Burden several times. He could have gone a lot earlier. He's going to go here instead of a quarterback need. We'll see what happens. Carr and Rattler, I think the Saints are probably going to potentially take their time with that. I don't know if they're going to necessarily be the team that pounces when the quarterback class isn't great, at least from what we see it as right now. We're going to go Luther Burden. Tremendous yak threat, excellent mover in space, but also has, reliability, playmaking skill set in all 3 phases at the position. Him and Olave, that's a duo that can go a long way for whoever plays quarterback for them. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 12. Again, the corner run. This corner class is going to be talked about a lot. It really is. Benjamin Morrison, another guy who did pretty well against Marvin Harrison Jr. in a matchup. And, when it comes to playing physical, playing really refined football, Morrison does it at a high level for Notre Dame. 9 interceptions in the last 2 seasons. Look at this passer rating allowed in 2022, a 29.2 passer rating. He's really, really good and really could have an argument to go top 10 as well. But the Buccaneers will gladly take a player of his caliber right here and now. The Colts at pick 13. A lot of ways we could go with this, right? Like Colston Loveland's interesting, of course. But I think Malachi Starks, they need safety help right now. They're trying to patchwork it a little bit with with what they have in kind of camp right now. They went out and signed somebody, so I think Starks could immediately solve that problem. The playmaking ability is off the charts. They move him around quite a bit between the slot and the box and deep down the field, so that versatility could be welcomed as well. But Starks, tremendous playmaker. Colts, maybe in kind of a Malik Hooker situation that maybe works out a little better for them this time around. So Starks goes there at pick 13. Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, my Steelers buddies are not going to like this at all. We're going to take Quinn Ewers, and I thought I wouldn't put Quinn Ewers in the first round anymore. You think I would learn. We'll see if I've learned when April rolls around and I'm watching this back, watching myself. We're going to go Ewers. Lots of arm talent. I think that he could be brought along pretty well in an Arthur Smith offense where you could run the football and kind of let Ewers sling it off of play action. Again, arm talent is just about refinement in his play. If he can ever do it, might be warranted to take him in the top 15. But again, that QB desperation is ruling the day. There's no doubt about it. Rams at 15. A lot of directions we could have gone with this one. They obviously loaded up on the defensive line in the NFL draft this past year. Really smart by them. Let's go get another corner. Denzel Burke. Maybe not the best athlete in the class, but good technique, especially when he's kind of in press and in maybe soft press where he can kind of turn and run, but he does a nice job squeezing guys to the sideline and really cutting off big throwing windows. So I think there's a lot of good technique there. We're going to take Denzel Burke for the Rams. We're trying to kind of patchwork that secondary, especially corner right now with someone like Tre'Davious White. So get a guy in there who will be good for you long term. Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, I mean, they're going to like big dudes who test really well and who are just kind of game wreckers up front. That's been a very Trent Baalke way to do things. We're going to go Deion Walker, who at I believe 6'6" and 348. That's nuts. And he's not necessarily just a nose tackle. 3-tech who can attack in one-gap situations and just be a disruptor. Imagine Walker and Joshua Hines-Allen and guys like that just wreaking havoc. That would really help this Jaguars defense. Browns at 17, I think, is interesting, where it feels like with the Amari Cooper contract coming to an end, Elijah Moore is going to be a free agent. They obviously have Judy under contract, but he hasn't quite proven everything to this point. We're going to go receiver. I thought about Teta Iroa, McMillan for sure from Arizona, but we're going to go Emeka Egbuka. We're going to stay in state here. I think people maybe a little bit forgetful about what he did 2 years ago for 11, 51, and 10. Didn't have the best 2023, but I expect a big bounce back for him. Potentially as the wide receiver one. We'll see. Obviously, Ohio State loads up really well at that position. But Egbuka, who I think could be potentially the number one for that offense. So we're going to go Egbuka there at pick 17. Chicago Bears at 18. Yeah, I mean, offensive line, we'll see how that works this year. They're pretty young along that offensive line. The tackles are going to have to step up. If they don't, we could obviously be talking about tackle for them when April rolls around. But we're going to go edge to pair Nick Scourton with Montez Sweat. Scourton had a phenomenal 2023 season. 8 sacks. I think he can, potentially elevate his game and get himself to a dozen sacks this season in the SEC. He's got plenty of talent. He's bigger too. Physical, can kind of be that speed and acceleration to power pusher. Opposite Montez Sweat, which I think they're still looking for that player. So we're going to go Scourton here for the Bears. Create a front that could really, really wreak havoc and push the pocket with ease. Chargers at 19. Yeah, another one where a lot of ways, a lot of Michigan guys you could still pick here at this position to make sense, but I get it. They went Lab McConkey. I'm just not sold on Quentin Johnston. I'm not sold on Joshua Palmer, really. Let's go McMillan here from Arizona, who had a really, really good 2023 season. Caught 90 for 13, 96, and 10. Really, really strong, year for him. And again, a little bit more than a jump ball receiver, but I think he can take the X spot in that offense and thrive. So we're going to go with McMillan there. Texans at 20. The one thing I thought about with the Texans is if Harold Perkins, kind of the enigma of this draft, where do you play him? Do you just let him blitz and run around at linebacker? Thought about that for these guys. They obviously have Shire and they're working on Christian Harris. So I went a different direction. I do think the middle of this defensive line could use some work, and Michigan's got another defensive tackle who is a good player in his own right, can be a disruptor, can help kind of anchor things in the middle, and Kenneth Grant. So the Texans are going to get better on the defensive side of the ball in this mock draft. Jets at 21. You could really pick offensive line for them in pretty much any mock draft you do, even right now, and it makes sense. But we're going to go a different direction. Safety, I think, could use a facelift. We're going to go Kevin Winston Jr., phenomenal tackler, physical presence, playmaker in the Penn State secondary at safety. I think he could shore up the back end of the secondary for that Jets defense. Falcons at 22, another one that was tough, but I kind of love the idea of Harold Perkins in this defense. Let him attack, right? There's some guys, Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone, kind of guys they're looking for to make an impact. They drafted both Aurora Rowe and Dorless to kind of make an impact along the defensive line. Haven't seen it. Maybe Perkins is still going to play off ball, but you can send him on blitzes. Just let him wreak havoc near the line of scrimmage and in space. Had to find a spot for him. The Falcons are going to be that team in this mock. Dolphins at 23. Yeah, we're going to go Emory Jones from LSU. Maybe his best football is kicking inside. Maybe it's not. Maybe he sticks at tackle. Either way, the Dolphins need anything that they can get on the offensive line to help Tua Tagovailoa out. Now, extension for him. Tyreek Hill gets more money. Jalen Waddle's getting an extension. They're bringing back the core players of this offense in terms of the skill positions and quarterback. You have to shore up this offensive line. Emory Jones is going to do that. He's played mostly right tackle. He has some right guard experience as well. Seems like an easy selection for them there. Green Bay Packers at 24. Yeah, I know there's excitement about Carrington Valentine. Eric Stokes is back. I know Corey Ballantyne, people like him as well. I had to go corner here, especially with Grant off the board for them. I really like that selection a lot. We're going to go Takario Davis. 6'3", bigger corner from Arizona. Had 14 pass breakups this past year. Good instincts. Moves really well for his size. I think could be a really, really good impact player opposite Jair Alexander. So we're going to go Takario Davis there for them. The Dallas Cowboys at 25. Thought about running back. Didn't love it. Thought about offensive line here as well, even with the Tyler Guyton drafting of him this past April. But I'm going to go wide receiver. I think, after CeeDee Lamb, who I expect to get an extension, I think everybody does. Who do they have? We're going to go Isaiah Bond. Plays well to catch point, plenty of speed. I think he is a good enough foil to what Lamb brings to the table that I think he can make an instant impact in that offense. Eagles at 26, another team that's really hard to peg because they just have a lot. And they did a really good job grabbing 2 corners for the future. They've always added to the trenches, which makes a lot of sense here as well. We're going to go that direction just because, again, we kind of talk about this a lot where it's just at some point Lane Johnson who has talked about hanging it up, he's going to eventually. So you got to have the succession plan in place. We're going to go Ernest Green from Georgia. A little bit unproven. He's played left tackle, though. Maybe he can kick to the right side. We'll see. But again, it's a premium position. Howie Roseman likes to go that route. And it just seems like, Green could be one of those guys who has that big rise. And maybe the Eagles won't even have a chance to take him, but it could be a BPA type of situation for them. Detroit Lions. Obviously, McMillan would have been excellent here. I think they're hoping for something out of Jameson Williams this year on the outside. I went edge here. Landon Jackson, big guy, 6'7", 282. big guy on the edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson. We're going to do that. I think he's shown a lot of promise. He looks eerily similar to Lucas Van Ness, and I think he can play like that as well. So the Lions are going to get beefed up there at edge at pick 27. Pick 28, Bengals. Yeah, we're going to take one of them. Ashton Jonty from Boise State. 2 great years at Boise State. Obviously needs to continue to show it when he plays against top competition, but 6.2 yards per carry last season, 14 touchdowns. Did enough in the passing game, and so I think he can be that 3-down player the Bengals really don't have right now at running back. They're trying to work with Zach Moss and Chase Brown to this point. Let's just get a star in there in the making. Buffalo Bills at 29. Yeah, they're looking for stuff from Von Miller and company on the edge. Let's go get Kamon Rucker from North Carolina, who I think could be a little bit overlooked right now. 8 sacks this past season. I think he's due for a big, big year, and I think he will find his way into the first round. So we're going to give him to the Buffalo Bills. The Ravens need offensive line help here at 30. There's no doubt. They're obviously trying Rosengarten and company in there, kind of fill some holes. But Ronnie Stanley hasn't been healthy. They've kind of had to rotate guys in. They lose Morgan Moses, right? They lost John Simpson, so they got to kind of get this thing right. I'm going to butcher this for sure, but let's go Jonah Savai-Ainea from Arizona here, who I think jumps into the first round. He's played right guard and right tackle. That type of flexibility will probably be welcomed by the Baltimore Ravens. Niners at 31. Another team that's tough to figure out. I looked through corner, and then I'm like, well, they drafted Bernardo Green. Corner could still be something that's in play here. There are still some talented players on the board. Jabbar Muhammad for sure being one of them. Kobe Bryant from Kansas. But we're going to go edge. We're going to get Jack Sawyer to pair with Nick Bosa, another Ohio State edge rusher. Now for the Chiefs, who just kind of vibe in the first round usually. Could go edge here. Could go interior defensive line. Wouldn't be upset about either. Could go offensive tackle. Wouldn't be upset at all. But they obviously have Sua Mataia in there, who could make an impact if he gets a chance to. I mean, they drafted Jared Wiley, but what does that mean, really? Right, Travis Kelce, probably not going to play that much longer. Maybe a couple seasons or so. Let's go get Colston Loveland from Michigan, who, is someone who averaging over 14.5 yards per reception in 2 seasons, where he could just kind of be that seam stretcher, middle of the field tight end that Patrick Mahomes could rely on. So there you guys go. 1 round, way too early, 2025 NFL mock draft. Let me know what you thought of your team's pick or any picks down in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new. There'll be plenty more content coming very, very soon. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Farewell.